Somewhere in the middle of a desert in Central Asia, there's a hole in the ground roughly the size of a football field that has been on fire, non-stop, for more than 50 years. Locals call it the door to hell. And here's the part that should really bother you. Nobody has an official record of exactly how it started. We're talking about the Darvaza gas crater in Turkmenistan, a giant, glowing pit that lights up the desert at night like something out of a fantasy movie, and that scientists, tourists, and even the country's own government have spent decades trying to figure out what to do with. Stick around, because this is a story about a mistake nobody wrote down, a fire nobody meant to keep burning, and a decision the whole country is only now getting around to making. Let's start with the story everyone tells, even though, and we'll get to this, nobody can actually prove it. Back in 1971, Soviet engineers were drilling for natural gas in the Karakum Desert, when the ground beneath their rig gave way, swallowing the equipment into a massive underground cavern. As the site collapsed, it started leaking large amounts of methane gas into the air. That's a problem, because methane is toxic to breathe in large quantities, and more importantly, it's extremely flammable. So the engineers came up with what seemed like a perfectly reasonable plan at the time. Light it on fire and let it burn off in a few days. That was over 50 years ago. The gas still hasn't run out. To be fair to those engineers, that's less worst decision in Soviet history and more worst estimate in Soviet history. Somewhere, there's a project manager who really underestimated this timeline. So why is a fire that was supposed to last a few days still going strong after 5 decades? The short answer is, it's sitting on top of an enormous natural gas field. Turkmenistan holds some of the largest proven natural gas reserves on the planet. And the Darvaza crater just happens to be punched directly into the middle of it. As long as gas keeps seeping up through the crater floor, it keeps finding oxygen and keeps burning, like a pilot light hooked up to a tank that never seems to run dry. At night, hundreds of individual flames flicker across the crater floor. And the heat radiating off it is intense enough to feel from the rim, even standing dozens of feet back. It's become such a strange, magnetic site that Turkmenistan actually built a small campsite nearby, so tourists can pitch a tent within sight of a literal hole in the ground that's on fire. Somehow, camping next to hell's front door became a bucket list activity. In 2013, a Canadian explorer named George Kourounis decided the crater needed one more visitor, him, at the bottom of it. Wearing a heat-resistant suit and rigged to ropes rated for use on Mars missions, Kourounis rappelled roughly 100 feet down into the burning pit, becoming the first person on record to reach the crater floor. He measured ground temperatures of around 750 degrees Fahrenheit down there, hot enough that his equipment had to be specially built just to survive the descent. But he wasn't just doing it for the world record, although he did get one. Kourounis was there on a scientific mission to collect soil samples from the crater floor, hunting for extremophiles, microorganisms tough enough to survive heat, toxic gas, and zero oxygen. He found them. Bacteria never before catalogued in any database, thriving in conditions that would kill almost anything else on Earth. And here's why that actually matters beyond bragging rights. If life can survive down there, in a 50-year-old fire pit in the middle of a desert, it tells scientists life might be able to survive in similarly brutal conditions on other worlds. Hot, methane-rich, oxygen-starved environments, like what we've found on some moons and planets in our own solar system. So somehow, humanity's most extreme camping trip turned into a legitimate astrobiology mission. Here's where the story stops being just a fun desert oddity. Satellite data has identified Turkmenistan as the single largest source of methane super-emitter events on the planet. More than any other country, including much larger economies. Independent researchers have tracked emissions from just 2 of the country's fossil fuel fields, that in a single year contributed more to global warming than the entire carbon output of the United Kingdom. A huge chunk of that comes down to decades-old Soviet-era infrastructure that was never built with leak prevention in mind. Cracked pipelines, aging wells, and yes, fire pits that were supposed to burn out decades ago and instead just kept venting gas into the atmosphere. And there's an economic angle too. Every cubic foot of gas burning uselessly in the middle of the desert is gas that isn't being sold. For a country whose economy leans heavily on natural gas exports, an eternal flame is basically money on fire, literally. For years, Turkmenistan's government has floated the idea of extinguishing the crater entirely, citing environmental damage, health concerns, and that wasted gas revenue. In 2024, the country's president reopened that debate, ordering officials to find a technical solution to finally seal the pit for good. Something that's genuinely difficult, since you can't just throw a blanket over a hole that's been on fire since before most viewers of this video were born. And here's the twist nobody expected. Recent observations suggest it might actually be working. Reports indicate the flames have visibly thinned out, with some monitors estimating the fire has weakened to roughly a third of its former intensity. After more than 50 years, the door to hell might finally quietly be starting to die out. Which raises a strangely funny question. If it does go out, does Turkmenistan throw the world's most anticlimactic retirement party? 50 years of dramatic flaming glory, and it just fizzles. So let's recap. Sometime around 1971, though even that date is disputed because no one wrote it down, Soviet engineers accidentally opened a hole into a massive gas field, lit it on fire, expecting a quick burn-off, and then just sort of walked away for 50 years. It became a tourist attraction, a genuine scientific research site, and one of the biggest methane leaks on the planet, all at the same time. And it might finally be closing for good. If you learned something new today, hit like and subscribe, and share it with someone who thinks the weirdest things on Earth only happen underwater or in outer space. Because it turns out our own planet has plenty of its own doors left to open. See you next time.